Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the July 19th meeting of the Board of Sewer Commissioners. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with a roll call.
Sandy Slavin here.
Peter Dunlop here.
And Jim Gibberti here. We have minutes from June 7th and June 21st, which we are going to have to postpone because we don't have the requisite quorum in order to act on them. Citizens' participation. There's seeing no one, we will move forward. We're wrapping this thing out like nothing. Now we've got a discussion regarding E1 grinder pumps. Where are we starting with that, Guy?
Sure. Come up, introduce yourself, and, well, Mr. Chairman, I know that he would ask, when we have
I
in the
already
past
signed mine, so you can
education
give
on
that back.
E1 pump, what they're all about. There's been some controversy, misunderstandings about the E1 pump. And let me say this, E1 is just, is a genetic, it's like Reynolds wrap, but there are many type of grinder
Just
pumps.
signing them as a
And so
preparer.
E1 is just one type of grinder pump. So he's coming this evening to explain the benefits of a grinder pump, what they are, how they work, so the board can be informed on grinder pumps. As you know, as part of our conditions on the 40B, we're requiring or requesting strongly grinder pumps. And this is what we're talking about, pumps that can handle rags, grease, and things of that sort in their own wet well, and they macerate it before it gets to us. So I just think a little better education, and that's what they're here for.
For clarification on the project over there, we're requesting grinder pumps. Now, we're requesting a central grinder pump or individual grinder
A
pumps?
grinder pump for each building.
Each building,
So
okay.
each building they put will discharge to a grinder pump, and that'll discharge to the sewer system. So it has to go from the buildings to the
and
grinder
that's,
pump to the sewer system.
And that's gravity from that point on?
Yes, once they force it to the sewer system, she'll gravity.
Okay.
We'll probably have them put a manhole before it enters the street, and that'll be the force, and then she'll gravity in.
Okay.
So they won't be pressurizing our gravity line?
No. The manhole will take all the pressure if there is any, but it's an 18-inch line, so even if they forced into it, it wouldn't pressurize the line whatsoever. Yeah, so it just eliminates,
Well, I understand the
all the
grinder
issues
part, I
it
just
goes.
was leery of the pressure part.
no, there wouldn't,
Okay.
there's not enough pressure created in an 18-inch line at that distance to have any worry about it.
Okay, and you are?
Henry Albro with F.R. Mahoney and Associates, ALBRO. And with me is Daryl Coppola, who is one of our chief service techs, and he's tagging along to get involved in some of these types of meetings with us. And he's been
He's the one,
involved.
he's the one that's gonna tell us whether this stuff really works.
He's the one that works on them
He
day in and day
understands.
out. So, yes, he gets his hands dirty. He's the one who knows the ins and outs.
So-
My history, I've been doing this for 18 years with F.R. Mahoney and Associates. Prior to that, I was a sewer superintendent up in Pepperell, Mass. for 22 years. And I used this technology there, and it was sort of a natural fit to do what I'm doing. Environment One is going to turn 50 years old next year. They were the original developers of the first commercial grinder pump. This technology, low-pressure sewer, pressure sewer, it was initially called low-pressure sewer because the developers didn't want to intimidate and scare people by calling it a pressure sewer. The difference being that our system operates to head conditions 185 feet, which is potentially up to about 90 pounds of pressure, PSI. So the conversation, the question about pressurizing the gravity system, the pressure exists within the pipeline as we restrict it in a force main. But once it gets into an open space, one of these pumps, it's about as exciting as watching a garden hose laying on your driveway.
Oh, wow, can we sell
you know,
tickets for that?
It's about that exciting. When it dumps into an open area, the area opens up, flow is equal to area times velocity. It's a standard hydraulic calculation. So, you know, as we dump into a receiving sewer, receiving manhole, the flow velocity drops off and dissipates quite quickly. Environment One uses a semi-positive displacement pump. It's kind of like a little corkscrew. And what I brought was some literature for you that has a lot of the commonly asked questions and answers in here, so that if you can't sleep tonight and you want some reading, I would encourage you to take a look at this. But basically, we use a progressing cavity pump, which has a very straight performance curve, so there's a very predictable flow rate over a wide range of head conditions. So we can fit almost any application with just one pump, one standard pump core. We use a 1 horsepower motor, and because it's a progressing cavity pump, we can design and refine the hydraulics of the system. And I don't want to get into the pump, it's a system. This is a sewage system, sewage conveyance system. What we provide is the vehicle that works in that system, but we also go well beyond that. We have the appurtenances, the hardware, so that this can be piped properly. We do the design support, the hydraulic analysis, and so we can size the system. And key for that is proper flushing velocity in the system, so it's not a maintenance issue. Where with a gravity sewer, we put in a gravity sewer, the minimum size is 8-inch, and we might have an area with half a dozen homes. There's actually more maintenance to keep that line clean because the solids don't have enough water to flush them out. So the nice thing about a grinder pump system like this is that we grind everything to a 1/4-inch particle size, and then we just use the hydraulics of the water that we have coming from the home. The flow rate that people use when they're designing, we often refer to the Title V 110 gallons per day per bedroom number. And that's good for capacity in a system, maybe reserving, but it's a peak number typically used to size a leach field under a peak condition. What we see out of a normal household is probably something like 180 to 200 gallons a day. So to rely on this 440 gallons a day in a 4-bedroom home, really, it doesn't happen in the real life. What happens is we have much lower flow rate. So by grinding the solids down, using a small diameter pipe, we can maintain very good scouring velocity. We keep pipeline retention down because sewage does not improve with age, languishing in a pipeline. It's something that, you know, we want to keep it moving, keep it fresh, so that we don't have odors and corrosion. And that's true to your gravity sewer, a lift station, force main, you know, those conditions are all the same. So the characteristics of the wastewater, we use the same logic and the same methodology that you would do when designing what people still refer to as a conventional sewer system. So, so we've worked in many communities throughout the New England territory. We cover New England. Probably 30,000 or better installed in New England units. We have stations that are the single-family home simplex package, and then we get into duplex for commercial applications. We can get into multiple pumps, multiplex, 3 and 4 pumps. So we can fit a niche like up to 7 to 10,000 gallon a day flow with little 1 horsepower motors. So the energy efficiency is there. We can handle the low flow conditions at night and then bring other pumps on when we have peak conditions. So it's a nice niche application. It's not for every place, just like gravity isn't for every place. But it's a very reliable and flexible system. I can say that with Daryl and 6 colleagues on the road all the time, with 30,000, 50,000, something in that range, there's at least 1,000 pumps a year that go in the ground here. That they have busy days, but it's manageable. if these things were problematic, we would have a fleet of service vehicles. And that's how I kind of measure reliability. We've done numerous studies of systems where we do the maintenance and we actually have the data on the performance records. And we're seeing mean time between service calls in the 10 to 13 year range on these. So a homeowner should not have to have a service call, should not have to do any routine maintenance. These things last as long as any other household appliance that they would have. I think I've rambled along a little bit, so I'll let you ask questions.
How does this hold up with grease? Does grease impact it, and to what degree?
Well, our level control system is a little bit different than other systems. We actually use a submerged sensing column. So the column is full of air. We use a pressure switch up in the top of the pump. And as the water level goes up and down, it fluctuates, it compresses that air column. And that air column prevents anything from getting up into the switch mechanism. Certainly, any abuse of grease and rags and solids over time can accumulate, but in general, everything that is floating above gets mixed because we have a very large inlet grinder mechanism. That paddle wheel tends to keep things mixed and blended and ground up, draws material in from the tank. We don't use an oversized tank. We keep our tank about 24 inches in diameter so that we get good mixing in the tank when the pump comes on. Have we pulled pumps out that have been packed with grease? Yes. Is it a major issue? No. You know, we've seen places where, you know, extreme abuse where we've had grease issues. But usually what happens is we can correct that by knocking on the door of the homeowner because it's an individual pump and appraise them of the situation. Sometimes you have to cure it with an invoice. You know, okay, this is what you're doing, what you're putting down the drain. The nice thing with these is when we tie them in tandem in other projects, if there is a homeowner that abuses the system, it only affects them. It does not affect the others because it's their pump. If there's going to be an issue, it's going to be with their pump. Their neighbors can be good sewer users. They can be careful with what they put down the drain, and their system pumps into the pressurized pipe without any issue. So that's a nice way to do it. Where you put people into common pumps, a community lift station, you might have the diapers and the things coming down the line. How do you find out who's doing it? Where in this case, it's right there.
What's the warranty on these pumps?
The
Guarantee.
standard warranty, and ours is unlike others, it's a 2-year full on-site warranty from the date of startup. We ship pumps.
From date of startup?
Date of startup. So
In
they're
other words, we could bring them, put them on the shelf and not use it for 5 years, and then the warranty would start?
27 months from shipment, 24 months from startup. So you got a
So you gotta move
3-month
them right away.
grace. In some of the municipal projects we've done, I know we had one community that they bid it out and they bought from the general contractor instead of buying them directly. And they sat on the parking lot. And the homeowners were given 2 years to connect, and they took 1 year, 11 months, and 28 days to come in and get their permit without any incentive to tie in. And they were surprised. We had to shuffle and work around the warranty on that. But E1 stood up to it and backed it up and gave the community the warranty. So lesson learned on that is we stage deliveries. So if we were doing, for instance, we're putting in 700 units in Falmouth right now, and they buy truckload at a time, stage them, and the installers are putting them in. This is a nitrogen removal project, so everybody has to hook up. So what we're doing is we're just staging deliveries so they have enough to satisfy the demand of the drain layers, and then they just order as they need to keep the product fresh, so to speak.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
why are we interested in this? I mean, we're not going to ask our people to put them in.
Well, we're not gonna be, I'll let you take that guy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe we're in a position to tell folks who are in gravity system now to change over to any type of grinder pump. But as we expand our sewer, we have to consider infiltration, we have to consider rags, we have to consider grease. And this type of system helps us eliminate those problems, decrease our problem, and make it more of a homeowner responsible problem. So going forward, if we consider technology, it's good to know about the technology, because on a coastal community, infiltration and inflow are critical. If they had one of these systems in their home and a sump pump could not handle, that pump would not handle that sump pump, so they couldn't have it. There goes our problem. If there's, as you put regular gravity lines and you connect them, they're designed to have infiltration. These are solid welded pipes, no infiltration. So generally speaking,
So what?
so what?
I mean, where are we going to put these pumps?
We're going to put them in their property and then connect them to a main. Absolutely. It's
So
done all over the
We're
place.
going to change our gravity system to a pressured system?
For any type of, let's say we do a development of 40 houses. That 40 houses are going to connect to a gravity
Wouldn't
system.
they be better off selling that to the developer?
Well,
If we go to this 40B project and we need to put these pumps in, we're not buying them, they're
listen,
buying
we had
them.
the issue, to refresh your memory, when we had the issue that we had a developer who wanted to put grinder pumps, came to us and we said it's okay, and we had a planning board said they couldn't put them.
Bay Point.
So education is critical, because now it drives, we have to take now a big pump station, they're going to pay for it, God bless them, they're going to maintain it, God bless them, but they're going to send us a bunch of solids, a bunch of rags, a bunch of grease, which we didn't want.
I'm not debating that
Well,
the
that-
system works, I just don't know where the application is for us.
Anytime we are going to do a comprehensive wastewater management plan, which means we're going to extend sewer everywhere, it may be wiser to do this type of system than the deep dig gravity system.
This is
That's where it come
this
into
is a method of sewering, and it may fit applications that save your ratepayers, save your community considerable amount of money.
If you had said that you were going to put them in our pump stations, I would understand this discussion.
But they wouldn't go in pump stations. We're talking about future development of the town of Wareham, whether it be across from the Agawam River, the houses there.
But once again, we won't be buying the pumps, the development will.
These are existing homes that we're going to sewer. It's part of an upgrade. Whether we go to a new development, new area, like let's take specific Agawam Beach. There are people there that want sewer. So we say, great, we'll put sewers 17 feet in the ground, we'll spend tremendous money of dewatering, we'll continue to have problems with the infiltration and sump pumps, because that's what the area calls for, and we'll pay for that, because we're going to pay for that water that we don't want to treat, and less sewer. Or we say, no, we've got new technology, and we'll design that area to this technology. That means everybody has a grinder pump, eliminating infiltration to us, eliminating rags to us, and many different things, and that's the way to go. So it's about developing a community. And Agawam is just one of them, and many others throughout the town of Wareham.
Just as an aside, Guy, if that kind of a system were developed, and let's use Agawam Beach, because that's under discussion, would that be a less expensive system to install overall than what we're doing at the present time, or what we have done at the present time?
So to answer that question, I would see a design, but generally speaking, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because you got smaller pipes, shallow in the ground, less deep dig, less dewatering, less issues, smaller contractors, all those factors lowers the price of the contract.
So that means the betterment comes down.
The betterment
Means
would
the
be
betterment comes
reduced.
down. It's all relative,
All right.
absolutely.
So this discussion is for us to use for future construction.
This discussion is education, that if it comes in front of us as a consideration, as we develop and continue to develop, the input of the board is going to be critical. So education is critical for us to make the right decisions. So this is a tool in our toolbox that has many, many benefits to us. And to know about that tool is critical, because when the time comes to make a decision, the more tools we have, the more knowledge we have, we make better decisions.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Did I hear you say this was being planned for Woodland Cove?
For, what's Woodland Cove?
That's the 40B on Red Brook Road?
The 40B is, we're planning to put, or we're requesting, nothing's final, that grinder pumps go in front of each apartment unit. They'd be designed for commercial use. They'd be duplex. So that would be designed specific to that application. The developer would be responsible to do the math, do the engineering, and see what size pumps they need, what size holding tank they need, and then put it in properly, and then send it to us.
So it's your recommendation that grinder pumps be used for this new development?
Yes, it is.
It reduces the stress on our
Yes, it
plant,
does. Yes,
because we're taking care of rags and grease and...
Yes, ma'am. What it is, the product that pump gives us is more palatable at Dick's Pond Pump Station, which we own. It's our big pump
Yep.
station. So we remove, it's a rag station anyways, because it takes quite a bit, the developments up ahead of it, Indian Mountain Beach, Bourne, and go on. So the concept here is that by the grinder pumps coming from the apartments to the grinder pump, it grinds up the rags and whatever grease. The problem of maintenance becomes theirs. It shouldn't become ours,
Who is theirs?
the developer, the owner, because we don't
Sorry,
own these.
wait a minute.
I don't disagree with the problem.
We don't own them, they own them. It's on their property, so it's their responsibility to maintain it. They have to have a maintenance contract in place. We have a policy, and we talked about policies, that if you have a forced main, you have to maintain it. This is a forced main, this is a grinder pump. They're responsible to maintain it. If it breaks at night, they take care of it. We just don't get the impact to our pump station. We're looking to mitigate impact, and rags and grease and whatever flush they put down the toilet is less impact to us.
Normally, what happens if there's a power outage? What happens?
So power outage are handled many ways. You can put large holding tanks, or you put some type of generator.
So
That's
it's
gonna be the-
possible we may very well insist that they have a generator for each one of the grinder pumps?
It'll be part of the plan review and recommendation, and we'll definitely review the plans and recommend that, absolutely, that they have some type of emergency power to keep that pump going. Absolutely.
Do you have any sort of a battery backup?
Number one question we get is what happens when the lights go out. And our system, our panels come set up so you can plug in a portable generator right into the side of it. It's an automatic transfer. When we get into power outages, unless it's a real long, extended period,
This is Wareham. We get into power outages in a fog.
sure. Days,
Been known to happen.
It's been known to happen
Yeah.
in winter. What did we do? It was 3-4 days last winter?
yeah.
Some people did.
Yeah, I mean, this whole area was highly impacted. Falmouth, I think, lost power for a couple of days as well. Most people got through this. The ability to connect a generator is there. When you lose power, you lose all of your other appliances, dishwasher, washing machine, and so forth. So people go into a natural conservative, forced conservative anyway. Our tanks, generally, they're a 70-gallon tank. We can put in 150-gallon tanks. And I want to remind you about the Title V numbers. 110 gallons per day per bedroom is a peak number, and that's assuming you're washing dishes and doing everything else. That number drops dramatically during a power failure. But it's the first and number one question that people ask, and we've all been conditioned by this Title V number all through the years. We've been conditioned by it. But it's not something that people typically see. If it goes into days, then we'd have to plug a generator into it. We have built in a redundant battery backup alarm that warns people when they do have a high level, so they know that they have to conserve water or get somebody to pump the tank down. Our intent today was to try to inform this is an option. In a sewer plant, it might be more effective for you to do a pumping station and a force main versus deep cut gravity. It might be more cost effective to do a pressure sewer than the other two. Generally, what we see with gravity sewer projects, across the board, almost a 30 to 60% savings in that range. And so the decision then becomes, is that worth
Savings, where's the savings?
in the construction cost?
In the construction, okay.
Yes,
So in other words, we could look at that as lowering the betterment.
correct,
all
absolutely.
right.
That is a definite benefit. A project that did not pass,
How much did you say, 30 to
30
what?
to 60%.
Wow.
It can be anywhere in that range. So, when you're talking about $30,000 and $40,000 betterments to a homeowner to do a sewer project, it's a meaningful number. to drop that. And that's what things are costing these days.
Mr. Chairman, power outages, we deal with them. So the individual sewer user Wareham doesn't feel it, but the facility enterprise has generators everywhere, and we have to run. So whether it's your individual grinder in the house or a big pump station, you have to have backup power. That's just the way it is. And so the contractor at this development, of the 40B development, it'd be their responsibility to provide backup power. That's their responsibility. That speaks to the quality
And
of life
who sets that
issue.
requirement on them?
The requirement is set by, for us, is the DEP
Zoning?
and EPA. On them, I'm not too sure.
So I'm just trying to think which one of the permitting organizations would be requiring them to do the grinder, to have the generator.
In this issue, it's going to be the
Zoning?
ZBA, in this, because this, they're coming, so that's part of the conditions we'd apply. Other areas, it'd probably be planning, if it was just a
Well, I'm
straightforward
talking
development.
about Woodland Cove,
This specific
yes.
is going to be ZBA, because they're going to set
And
conditions,
they've
and
asked
they're
you for
done.
the input?
I was at a meeting, I presented it, I gave a packet that I presented to the town to give to them. It's been presented to their attorney. Everybody's aware, yes, we have presented the concept of what we're looking for mitigation to our pump stations of rags, grease, and any impact
Okay.
from flushables.
Thank you. Henry, how many of these units do you have in the area?
You're surrounded by them. We've got them in Marion, we've got them in Mattapoisett, we've got them in Falmouth, Bourne.
And they're all individual homes?
Yes. We've got commercial applications. We've got some multi-pump for commercial shopping centers, things like that.
Big units, housing units?
Yeah. We do. Like I say, we've been representing E1 for almost all of the 50 years, and it's hard to keep track of how many we have right now, quite frankly.
Did that big project in Marion use these?
Yes. Marion, Mass, they looked at up to 20 lift stations for the Berry area. There were 425 grinder pumps put in there. There were 3 areas that were considered for Marion, and AECOM, the consultant engineer, did an evaluation of the cost, and they came up with something in that 20 to 30% savings and a considerable time savings in construction, as well as considerably less disruption because shallower pipes and narrow trenches. And that actually was written up in a NEWIA, a New England Water Environment Journal, and presented at the Water Environment Federation. So there was a white paper written on that with the actual numbers of, how much they saved and how they lowered their betterment assessments. So that was a municipally purchased, municipally installed system, and we in fact do the maintenance for them on that one. And what happens in Marion is that if it's wear and tear, Marion pays for it out of their user fees. If it's abuse, they go right to the homeowner. So if we pull a pump out that's packed with grease and we report that, they will charge the homeowner for that abuse. So that's how they manage it. Not every community has to maintain them. I have communities that completely arm's length away, don't do anything other than it's your pump.
Who owns the pumps in Marion?
In Marion, I think Marion actually owns them,
Not the homeowner.
not the homeowner. Marion bought them under their grant program. And the contractor did all the installations, the general contractor did the installations. The same thing happened in Mattapoisett Neck. What they did was they put the pumps in, and then the homeowners hired a local drain layer plumber to make the final connection. But the pumps were purchased as part of the grant program. And because they were purchased under a grant program, DEP required a maintenance plan. If a private developer
Are
builds...
these grants still out there?
Yeah, they're part of the revolving loan, if you go for the state revolving loan, those would be conditions under that type of agreement.
Mr. Chairman, also, they use them extensively in Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, and it may not be E1, but there's other technologies, other companies. E1, again, as I stated in the beginning, E1, I equate that to Reynolds wrap. you always reach for Reynolds wrap, but there's also other types of foil. And there are many different, I'm going to say 3 or 4 known contractors or pump companies that make the specific grinder pump stations. So coastal communities throughout America are finding this to be the answer to a lot of their problems created by tidal water, infiltration, inflow, and the whole 9 yards. And the efficiency of flushables. Flushables are a problem. These pumps are designed to take care of those. So there's many reasons why they're becoming more and more popular, specific to coastal communities throughout the country.
I was just thinking, particularly in our situation, this type of a system, not having to put it this deep in the ground as what you have at the present time,
Right. We have,
got to make a hell of a difference.
Environment One is actually working on a project in Australia right now, Southeast Water, 16,000 pumps in this system, and they have developed their own monitoring system for all of the pumps that we can actually sell. It's their one-box technology, and it's multi-million-dollar savings, why they've done it. And so this is part of their expansion, and the area that they're doing is kind of like the Hamptons of the United States. It's a very affluent neighborhood, community, and presently they're putting in 16,000 of these in one common system.
Now, that's being put in by the town or the county or the whatever it is.
I
for
believe so.
Australia.
I don't know all the
not a-
details,
it's
but
not an
I think
individual.
they've elected and they're doing it, and they actually have become or E1 has become a licensee of their one-box technology, which is basically replaces the alarm panel. And during a storm, for instance, if there's an upcoming storm, they can send a message to pump the tanks down to maximize storage, or during a peak flow, if they have a lift station that's overwhelmed, they can actually restrict the flow of each of those pumps to only give the minimum to stay below the alarm to attenuate the flow. So they've got some neat technologies with these that pretty impressive. And so they're just basically, it's a system. They're managing the whole system and controlling the traffic that comes into their facilities.
And Mr. Chairman, there's many ways to handle it. In Martha's Vineyard, they have a bunch of pumps. They replace them, they take care of them, they own them. There's other companies, Nantucket, no, they rather have the homeowner own them. So it becomes a policy, it becomes a decision of the policymakers. There's many, many variables of how it's approached. And if we were to decide to do something like that or even consider it, then all those discussions would take place as to the best approach for the ratepayers in the town of Wareham. We presently have some systems, and we have a generator, and we advertise the number. So if you had one in Wareham of contract 2, contract 1, then you would call the station, we'd go out there and we would pump down your system. We'd go out there with our generator, our power cord, we'll plug it in, pump you down, and we go about our business.
What is the best way to handle it? Own it and maintain it as a
I don't know. There's as many
corporation or
people.
individuals?
Both positions are supported equally, what I'm finding. So it becomes a decision of the community. For me, personally, I'd rather own them. I would charge, in Martha's Vineyard, they charge an annual fee, a maintenance fee. Like if you did it privately, you'd get a maintenance fee. The maintenance fee is reasonable. And so we would charge a maintenance fee, annual maintenance fee. Above and beyond, they would pay for. If we went out there, it was a stupidity issue. Johnny put the tractor down the drain and it plugged it. Well, that's not a problem with the product. That would be a service charge that they'd pay for. But there's many ways to handle it, and there are people doing it. We could request. I think I have Martha's Vineyard's approach, their policy. We could request all the policies, and then we could review the policies and see which best fits into our community. But there's many ways of looking at it.
If you own the pump, or if we own the pumps, it may be beneficial that way because we'll get a grant. But now, if we own the pumps, who services them?
We do. So
Who?
the sewer department.
These people?
No, the sewer department. We would
We're
service
not going to
them.
sub that out.
We could. We'd have, We could look at the cost of subbing it out, the cost of in-house, because it's training. Whether they do it or our person does it, you would train individuals. So I think the wisest decision would be to cost it out, to see what they would charge us for that agreement, and then what it would cost us to train someone and do it. Because basically, you just switch your pump out, bring it back and rebuild it, throw it away, buy new, whatever the case may be. Martha's Vineyard does it themselves, and they have a tremendous savings. They've realized a tremendous savings by doing it themselves. That's just one community we could mimic or get their
Who owns
concepts.
the pumps in Martha's Vineyard?
They do.
They do.
The town of Martha, the
Correct.
island,
The island, the town of Tisbury.
Tisbury.
So I don't want to just.
So it's only in Tisbury, it's not in
Tisbury.
Edgartown or...
Edgartown has a difference, but town of Tisbury
Tisbury.
in Martha's Vineyard owns everything, and they do everything. And their maintenance is they charge an annual maintenance fee that is, I think it's like $500 a year or less, very reasonable. And again, they have a service charge if little Johnny flushes the tractor down the drain, but normally they take care of it. And it's worked for them, and they take care of the pumps. And they're happy with it. There are other communities that we don't want no part of it. We'll just sub it out and we'll just suck the cost. So there's many ways to approach it.
So this basically could become a profit center.
I'm not looking for profit. It should
What I'm
be,
just saying, it's become a
it should
profit
be-
center because you're gonna have an income vis-à-vis the service charge, and then you're gonna have you'll have the employees' cost against that.
that's right, the service charge,
You'll have the income separate and distinct from
that's right.
the EDUs.
We don't want to go backwards.
Right.
See, so we'd probably set up some type of fund, and that, yes, absolutely. Because the dilemma would be to just say, we'll do it, and then absorb that cost, because remember, proportionately, when we charge user fees, would it be fair for those that have grinders, because not everybody in town has it, to put that proportion on all the users or just the users that are affected? So it would be a causation use thing. So yes, absolutely, we would definitely do something along that line.
If I may, it sort of depends on how they're being used, what's the goal. If some communities, a developer comes in and builds a subdivision because it saves them money, and they're accepted, and the communities say, yes, but it's yours to maintain. We're not taking it over. It's kind of like, we accept a road from a developer, we go to town meeting, we accept a road, and then we own the maintenance on it going forward. My own community, we're falling behind on that. So if you're doing a project to lower your betterments, to reduce your cost, there's a public benefit that you can substantiate and say it is bona fidely worth doing it. In several communities, we've cited recently for a project we're working on over in Situate, for example. I was surprised when I called Service Department exactly how many communities are actually doing the work. And Bridgewater, Marion does kind of maintenance but contract through us, but they're involved. So if Darrell goes down to Marion, the sewer department is there and they're appraised of any situation. So if there's, let's say there's a street that has systemic issues going on, and they're there to see it, they see what we're seeing, then they're more in tune to know, okay, was there an install issue? Was there something that went on over here in this neighborhood that's causing this problem? And other communities, as Guy mentioned it, in Edgartown, they're on an island, and they were trained, and they were actually trained enough to do warranty work by Environment One, by us. So it was more expedient to them than back and forth, obviously, through the ferry, that cost to pass on, for them to do the work, and they're very comfortable with it. Palmer, Mass, 30-some-odd pumps. They've had them since the early 2000s, or maybe before. And they take a pump out for service, and they rebuild it like they're doing a complete overhaul. And they've gotten much longer life out of them. So a municipality in charge, I think homeowners, I liken it to, you go to the mechanic because your muffler's loud, and they put it up on a lift and they tell you, well, your whole exhaust system needs to be replaced. The homeowner says, well, all I have is money for the muffler. I'm going to try and get by with the tailpipe until later. Then something else breaks. Whereas a municipality can kind of charge everybody a rate, go in and do the repairs to the level that need to be done, so that it's not putting it off to have another issue. And that's what happened up basically in Chelmsford. Chelmsford went to town meeting and voted to have the town take over the pumps. And they had to go out and do a full assessment of all the pumps, bring things back up to speed, take care of things that were neglected by homeowners. And some of the homeowners, they had a noisy pump and they ignored it because they were very confident the town was going to have to take it over. So, we had those conversations with people, is that I'm not fixing it because I know the town's going to take it over and I'll let them fix it. And unfortunately, people think that you print money at the town. They don't realize where it comes from.
We don't?
No. Again, formerly in the municipal sector, I hear people say the town or the state. Well, it comes out of our pocket.
Exactly.
So is this a best use of your sewer revenue? Can it generate revenue? You have to charge accordingly. And we can certainly help with estimating costs, giving you, all the cost figures that we've accumulated over the years so that you can budget accordingly. Just like you're going to maintain a lift station, just like you're going to maintain your gravity sewer. It's all part of the asset management plan that you have to live under. So I think much more strongly that municipalities managing them, it's a three-legged stool. If you've got the homeowner involved, you've got a good contractor, and you got the municipality involved, you're going to have a better system. If you're in tune with it up front, the communities that take that arm's length approach and don't get involved, that's when abuse and neglect can kind of cause a problem. And the worst thing that I want to see anyway is somebody doing something with a competitive technology that's inferior, that damages the reputation of the technology because it hurts us. I mean, we've been shown the door because of somebody else that came in before us and messed things up, frankly. And we're trying to maintain a leadership role here.
So in other words, you're the best company in the business, is that what you're telling me?
If I were to leave today, I wouldn't go sell a competitor. I'd do something completely different because I couldn't tell people
Sure.
that I had a better mousetrap.
Good point. Okay.
So,
Anybody?
I'm done, thank you.
Peter?
thank you. Do you have other commissioners that aren't here I can leave information?
Yes, please.
Two other,
Got two others.
so you have three? I'll put it in the box.
I've got these two here.
Okay, so I'll give them, because I was going
Yeah.
to, usually
And
Rebecca
actually-
keeps one and five, but that's fine.
I have three. You can have this one. And you also,
But I think what we want to use it is in the betterments.
I did bring you a catalog as well.
Well, just
That
knowing that now. we
Covers
can do
most of the
something like
products that we
That's
have.
okay, Lauren?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thanks. I'll add this to that, because we'll just...
No, that wasn't available.
Where
We
hearing was done for agriculture.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
If you want us to come back and answer any other questions, happy to do so.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I hope the traffic is let up.
It was awful.
Where you going?
Well, I came down from a meeting in Portsmouth.
Oh, so you came down 24?
I came down 93 through Boston, 24. I was going to be here at 5, and I ended up being here at 6:30.
Well, I just came down 195 and, 495, and I hit it there at 24.
Oh, yeah. It was bad, yeah. Yeah. People who commute through the Southeast Expressway every day, my hat's off to them.
Well, I ran into no traffic.
They need
over
more
here.
than that.
Yeah.
No traffic coming up?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's,
Thank you.
Thank you.
this is... Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Guy, you're on.
Oh, sewer, a lot of my things in my sewer report, Mr. Chairman, we'll discuss in the next item.
Okay.
But a couple of the small little detail things. Yesterday at 7:30 in the morning, we did our first sampling of the 7 locations required by the Ocean Sanctuary Act to move the discharge outfall pipe to the Cape Cod Canal. We did one below the railroad bridge, one at the actual discharge presently from the Mass Maritime. We did one off the point of Mass Maritime entering Buttermilk Bay. We did one up in front of Mashney Island, and then one in front of Onset Bay, one at the Tiki Bar, which is Al's Tiki Bar, which is at the physical Buttermilk Bay. And the goal is to establish a ground zero, if you will, a base pattern of what's there presently for nitrogen and the parameters in our permit. Once we move the outfall, then we'll continue to monitor quarterly, as we do now, for our outfall to the Agawam River, and based upon the baseline we develop, to see that there is no impact to the surrounding waterways as we move forward. So it was exciting to kick it off.
Would we been impacted by the heavy water, rainfall, and stormwater discharge? Would that change any of our numbers? I mean, we put a lot of stuff ran off the roads, and you're now collecting the sample several days after a major storm.
So the Cape Cod Canal and the areas we were...
Well, that flushes so easily. I'm talking about,
Incredible, but we didn't do Onset Beach or that area there. We did to the entrance of it.
You mentioned that, yes.
So by staying in that, from the Cape Cod Canal, Mass Maritime, along the canal, influence into Buttermilk Bay, influence into Onset, that's where we're setting up a baseline. But the beauty of this is we're going to do this baseline for 9 months.
As long as we do a baseline that's within a period of time of a major rainstorm for consistency reading. I mean, to me, what would go in front of Al's a tiki bar would not have the flow of what's outside by Mass Maritime.
Well, we're setting a baseline, so whatever was there, we're going to establish those numbers. When we move forward and we start adding something, then we can compare. It's all for comparison. And so it's real life,
We did it
whatever
after
it
a
is.
major rainstorm, so we have stuff in it we normally don't have.
So it may be to our advantage.
I was thinking that.
It may be
So
to
we
our
put a little
advantage.
higher.
You know, I don't know. And this program is run by the estuaries and the coastal zone management, which is
I'm sure they take rainfall into effect,
the one, so
stormwater.
it was kind of nice to get, for me, it was exciting to get going, because every step is a positive step. Also, our pretreatment coordinator, Lana, is no longer with us. She's at Northeastern. She's in a graduate doctoral program. She is studying estrogen effect on flounders. There's a concept that the discharge, we're getting into a time period of where the states and governments can require us to address pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals are a huge problem for everybody. Estrogen being one of them, and we don't have to get into the details of estrogen, but estrogen is being discharged out of the Deer Island treatment plant. They discharge probably close to 750 million gallons a day, average 350 million gallons a day, and they're discharged into Cape Cod. There's researchers that are finding that there's not a lot of male flounders in the Cape Cod Bay, a lot of female in the Cape Cod. So they believe estrogen is just one example. There's also biological upsets, and they believe that it's pharmaceuticals from in-home chemotherapy, which these radical drugs that kill people urinate it, put it in the sewer system, it gets into the biological. So right now, what the EPA is beginning to address is pharmaceuticals. We will have to address them. We're looking at treatment now. We're looking at encapsulating the pharmaceuticals, oxidizing through ozone, all expensive technology. So by studying it and understanding it, we can come up with technology to get rid of pharmaceuticals. That is the next major hurdle that we have to overcome in wastewater. So, my hat's off to her. Going to miss her dearly. She's done a great job for us, but she's into a program that's incredible. And the beauty of her program, it's a fellowship, so she gets paid a stipend. She spends no money on her degree. She has housing and insurance. It's just, I would have taken the deal because they didn't want me. But anyways, so she's gone. So we are I talked to Doreen. We'll advertise again. We'll start again in the interim. I'll take on the responsibility, and we'll go from there. Our permit's been great. We're in July. This is the time of the year we have phosphorus issues, and we don't know exactly where they're coming from. We have a lot of processes in the industrial park. Phosphate has many forms, whether it's a cleaning item, preservative, many different items that phosphorus goes into. We're suspecting at times crouton factories and donut factories and things of that sort. We have a fish facility, and so we're trying to nail that down. It's the second consecutive year that the numbers around this time have jumped up. We've been able to make permit, but it's a worrisome time, so we need to identify where the phosphorus is coming from every July and August for the last couple of years. So we're working on that, but other than that, nitrogen numbers are great. They're around 2, which is considerable. It's really excellent, so we're happy about that. So a lot of good things are going on. Our maintenance program's working. We're addressing the pump stations. We have a crew that's all they do is spend time on the pump stations. They're rehabilitating them. It's coming out excellent. We're really excited about that. We're also cleaning pipes, and so there's a lot going on. Guys are staying busy, and we're moving forward. Tomorrow we start the project at in Swiss Beach on Wankinko. That pipe from Swiss Beach, Wankinko to the Ruggles Pump Station has 4 inches of sand in it and 2 inches of crud. So that 8-inch pipe is actually a 3 to 4 inch pipe. That's backing up the other areas. So we hired a Vactor. We wanted to get just a Vactor, but we're waiting for the town to approve it. It's been months, but so what we're doing in the interim, we're hiring a Vactor and a truck and a driver. It's going to about $1,800 a day. They're going to clean this out. And the concept is to clean all the sand and crud out without impacting the asbestos pipe, which is fragile. This company knows what they're doing. They've done many, many times, so we got to clean the pipe out. So we're starting
I
that.
thought we had a vacuum truck.
Our vacuum truck is going to be tied up for 6 to 8 weeks, maybe longer. Our vacuum truck, the jet rotor is gone, the pump is gone. It's a $20,000 cost for the part plus repair. We had put into this year's budget, in 2019, to buy $80,000 to buy a portable Vactor, but it was removed. So we're going to send ours away, get it fixed. It's going to cost us probably $40,000 to $60,000 to fix it. And in the interim, we're going to hire a Vactor.
And how much is this truck costing us, did you say?
$1,800 a day. So we'll just move forward. It is what it is.
Now, this line that they're cleaning, is this one that's going to be relined?
Eventually, once we get it cleaned, we're going to camera it.
That's not under our present project.
No,
Okay.
no. We're going to Hamilton Beach, it's our next lining. This truck, when they're done, they're also going to 12th Street and Onset, and they're going to cut out every route out of 12th Street. The routes is incredible. Homeowners are starting to replace their own laterals. We got backups all the time. We're constantly in there cleaning it. So the jet rotor is going to go in there. It's going to cut all these roots out. We'll put a camera on one end. We'll bring it to the roots. We'll see it. We'll actually cut the roots out, cut them out. Then we'll treat it, let the treatment kill what we couldn't get, come back and cut it some more. So we're starting that process. So there's quite a bit that we're going to be doing in the next few
So
months.
as it grinds down the roots, that material's going to end up in this sewer plant?
They're going to Vactor it out before it gets there. So we do everything downstream from flow. So you go up, you cut it, it flows to you, you suck it up before it gets to the pump station.
That and anything else that's in there?
The pump station will take the brunt
And the
before it gets to us.
chemicals will be sucked up like that too, or will they flow into this?
Chemicals will be sucked up into the roots, and then it'll be sucked up into the Vactor truck.
And the vacuum
Which is
truck
gonna
has
be
a
in the
place
roots.
to dump all this
Absolutely.
material? Where?
It's going to go to our plant and to the Bourne landfill.
So it will go to the plant?
It's going to be laid on the ground. It's not going to go into the treatment system.
Okay.
Out back, we have beds specifically designed for rags and debris. It'll go there, then we'll mix it up with some lime or whatever for odors, and then we'll truck it to Bourne landfill. Each year, we get 200 ton of free disposal to Bourne landfill, part of the IMA, and we'll take advantage. That's how we get rid of it.
How many feet does this vacuum truck do a day?
Depends on the condition of the pipe. This 4-inch sand, we're hoping to get 500 feet a day, hoping. I mean, there's no guarantee of that, because again, you move the sand out, and you have to Vactor it up, decant the truck, and then bring it in. So it depends on the actual pipe. We got to go real easy because it's asbestos, and we can't ram it. It's going to be nice and slow and easy. So
So
once we start it, we'll have a better idea.
How many feet are you planning to do?
Right now, we're going to do probably about 2,000 feet in Swiss Beach, and we'll probably do probably a couple, 3,000 feet in Onset.
So you're talking like 3 weeks with this
We're thinking
$1,800 a day,
We're thinking about 3 weeks at $1,800 a day, yes.
$2,700 bucks.
$27,000?
Yeah.
How much did you say it would cost to fix our truck?
We're projected 40 to 60,000. And that's why we had seen this coming, and we put on our capital plan this year to buy a Vactor. We actually, Dave Menard and myself went down and demoed this a year ago. It was on 2019 budget, $80,000. Problems go away. We'd have been doing our own. It's a 3-inch, which is better for what we're doing. We actually demoed on catch basins because they're the most sand debris, pure sand, and we sucked them out. It was incredible. The power was incredible. Made by Vactron.
When is this project supposed to start?
What project?
The vacuuming?
Tomorrow. So that's just some of the things that we got planned. So what we'll do tomorrow is, we've already notified Swiss, but we'll actually walk door to door. And that project's only going to impact 3 or 4 people, so it's really good because they got another act, so we'll talk to them personally. We've already talked to them a couple weeks ago, but now we'll talk to them again personally and make sure that there's no impact to them and emergency vehicles.
This vacuum truck, it's gonna cost, what did you say, 60,000 to fix it up?
Hours, yes, between 40 and 60, that's the estimate.
Now, municipal maintenance doesn't have one,
No.
but they'd like to use ours.
Well, they have been. They've used us. We do things for them, yes.
Excuse me?
Yes, everybody, yeah, we've done work for municipal
Well,
maintenance.
will they split the cost?
So the dilemma is, you're polluting enterprise, non-enterprise. That's a political, I'm not even going to go into that arena. Because you're talking about combining incomes that are separated. There's some real live issues when you start playing with those two. It's enterprise set up specific for a way. The EPA is adamant about enterprises and general funds because everything's charged to the enterprise proportionately. So we have to be careful how we do all this stuff. So that's a political thing, and I'm not getting into it.
Well, it might be a political thing, but they need a vacuum truck. I know for a fact that there's some lines over in our area that they need to vacuum. And political issue, yes or no, but
It's a $300,000 investment.
in the end, it comes back to saving the taxpayer money if we can work together.
Get it, I get it, I get it, I get it. We do as much for them, and they do as much for us as that we dare do. And then we leave it at that, because there's just too many complications, and everybody has something to say about something, so it's easy just to stay away from it. So we're looking at it. To buy a Vector truck, to replace our truck is $300,000. That's why we're gonna go with the trailer. And plus, we have a lot of small streets. Why we bought the smaller truck is because we try to get in between the streets of Swiss Beach, Onset proper, Wareham proper, and so $300,000.
Are these things rentable?
So, to rent that back to myself is $700 a day, and I operate it. I present it to the town. There's only 2 companies that rent it. One's from Mississippi and one's from Texas. The company that so I went to those companies, and it's $700 a day. The town doesn't want to sign the contract because it's an out-of-state, and if there's a dispute, they're not going to go to Mississippi and fight it. So we're not renting it. So I'm moving forward. It's
Who's on first?
It's reality. But anyways, and we have to get the work done. It's impacting us.
What did you say it would cost us to buy a new Vector truck?
So buy a new Vector truck is $300,000.
Okay, that's,
To buy a Vector trailer is $80,000.
now what's the difference between the two? What are we talking
One is a
about?
tag-along, our truck pulls it.
Yeah.
It's a self-contained unit with its motor, its vacuum system.
So it does everything.
It does everything that a Vector truck would do. We're just not buying the cab. We're not buying the Peterbilt cab, the Chevy cab. We're not buying any of that stuff.
We could tow that
We're just
behind.
buying these, and we're going to tow it
You could
behind
let-
our truck 60, yes.
Does that also make it, we don't need a CDL to drive it? So we could, in other words, we can operate a trailer. We have to pay if we're gonna use a truck.
So, yeah, so if I rent the truck for $700, I gotta put my CDL driver in it. It's only a couple of us. I would drive it with my CDL driver. The trailer, anybody can take it because it's under the
I
GVW
think
weight.
we've gotta discuss that.
So that's why I presented it, that's why we looked into it. We did a lot of research on it. Talked to the Registry of Motor Vehicles, Department of Public Safety, to make sure we're within the rights to do this. When we bought the new truck, we made sure the weight would be compatible to pull that. We're very careful of the weight, because it has a weight, everything has weight. So we did our research. It wasn't haphazard, we did our
Okay,
research.
we'll have to have that discussion outside of
I
here
think-
later.
So anyway, so that's
We've gotta
all
look at it.
starting, we're excited about it. And that's all I have. I'll let you know the other part as they come up. We're gonna do a lot of cleaning and fixing, and, because we have tons to do.
Okay,
Can I ask one question?
yep, go ahead.
I wasn't here last meeting, but the meeting before that, we talked about the engineering for some of the new areas. Guy, have we gone anyplace on that?
We already have an existing contract signed by the board back in December. I don't think I have it with me. So yes, we're moving forward. Part of the design that we did when we were looking at expanding for the communities, the 5 communities, the regionalization, was for Wareham to plan future use, because I had to make sure that I had enough gallons for all future construction. When we upgraded the plant and decided on the outfall content, whether it's going to be 2 million gallons a day, 5 million gallons a day, all that had to be done. So they started that work. We're probably 80% done, and we'll wrap it up, so you'll have your comprehensive wastewater management plan, we're hoping by October. Now we just got to finalize everything and do the actual measurements and whole nine yards. So Beta has been given a contract, they have it. I thought I had it with me, but I don't. But they have a contract signed by the board, signed by procurement, signed by everybody, actually, approved by Mr. Bowen, so it's in place. So it's in place. Sorry I don't have one copy with me, I'll get you a
All
copy.
right, as long as we're moving forward on it.
Yeah, we're in place.
Well, I'd love to, you know, do the study on what it would cost us to do these areas, and then do the study as what it would cost if we went to a pump system. If we can save that much money and that we can cut the betterments that much down.
To give you an idea, we did the same study for Agawam with these guys. You call them and you give them the parameters, dimensions, they come out and they put it together computerized. We did it for Swiss Beach. At the time, the town was going to do that, and we had done the grant, we did the town meeting warrant article for engineering. It's going to be approximately $13 million to do every drop of Swiss Beach E1. That would have meant abandoning what we have and putting E1. So the decision was $13 million and other costs, which had been recordings and lawyer fees, but thought was to put all that money in one area was not in the best interest of the entire community, so we decided to do the most, which was an acceptable approach, was to do what we're doing, going throughout the entire community, and then hitting the high spots, and keep getting the highs till we get them all done. Because if we had put our eggs in one basket at Swiss Beach, nothing else would have got done. And so that was not the proper way to go. But my point is, we've done evaluations, and it is cheaper. We've done them. And so as we move forward, we can do specific evaluations for specific areas. And we compared it, we still have the engineering for Agawam.
Well,
It's deep dig.
But,
We did the engineering for
but you have it for a gravity system.
did it for both. It was
You
cheap,
did it for a pump system?
absolutely. They did it. That was,
Well, how much difference was the betterment?
so it was going to be approximately, I thought the number was really around 20%. I don't remember 30 to 60, if I remember correctly. But the dilemma is some of the existing engineering we had to use, like from there to Parkwood. There was talk about going from Agawam to Onset, which had been directional drilling under the bay, coming up on the other side and going to Onset. So that's what we had to iron out. That cost was, I don't know. So we reevaluated it, but I know that it was cheaper. I even remember 20 off the top of my head, but I don't remember 30 or 60, but it was definitely a better approach. And at the time, CDM discouraged it and said, no, this is the best way to go, which was digging down 13 feet into the water table.
Did he just say that naughty word?
Cost doesn't matter.
So we have done them, to answer your question. We have done it. It's real.
Okay.
Well, I think the people in Agawam Beach are changing their tune.
Okay, well, let's
By-
move along. We'll
by
come
the same
back, come back to
token.
that. All right, we need some more information and get into that. You had something on a grant, Water Warriors?
So Water Warriors presented to us
Yeah,
I think May 17th, May
Yeah.
16th, on the grant proposal voted on by the board. And in that grant proposal, they had the numbers of the match or the contribution from CEC was going to be $150,000. Because we cut, the original proposal was to do aeration basin and equalizing basins. They gave us $150,000. We cut out the equalizing basins and just do the aeration basins. So they cut the contribution from 150 to 83. So the bottom line is that it's a $67,000 difference. $28,000 will be actual in cash, and the balance is going to be in in-kind services, which means that we'll do more work at the plant, all the monitoring, whatever. So the bottom line is because CEC cut back 67, it's going to cost us an extra $28,365. So we originally approved 166, add the 28 to it. And that's that's our new number. It's the same grant, same program, it's just CEC cut their contribution in the grant.
So that differential, that increase in money that you're talking about, that 28, can we split it with Water Warriors? Why should we pick up the whole thing?
What they're picking up
We're
is...
still being a beta site, test site for them,
I understand.
and I don't see the necessity, even though we've cut back, that means it's cut back some of their
they're
costs and
providing-
expenses as well.
They're providing $37,000 worth of monitoring after the fact. That monitoring has to happen as part of this grant. They're coming down, it's a
They're
cost.
obviously going to provide less if we've cut one thing out, is that not correct?
So all the
Or are they
numbers were going to be
overcharging in
higher.
the first place?
All the numbers were going to be higher. We cut out one portion of it. The monitoring still has to be done, because part of the grant is to monitor for one complete year. Somebody's got to do that. So they've increased their take, so they're going to do that at a $43,000 cost that they're going to do in kind. So, I mean, that's the balance. So the $67,000 is the increase. We're doing 30, they're doing 37. And they're providing that money by the in-kind service. They're going to come down, they're going to monitor, do the right to reports, make sure it's correct, submit it to the CEC, and that has a value.
You know, I'm pretty slow when it comes to this stuff, obviously.
Well, it's not slow, I
But-
don't think so.
We agreed on them providing X amount of monies. I don't care how it gets provided, whether it was in peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, in kind, dollars, or whatever. They were providing X number of dollars. A grant was providing X number of dollars, and we were providing X number of dollars to do this. We've cut the scope size of it down,
And our price goes up?
and as a result of cutting the scope size down, the grant now comes into play and saying, we're not going to give you as much money.
Remember, when we cut the scope services down, that was the presentation, and the assumption was that they'd continue to give 150. It was cut down. Those numbers came down in the last presentation.
So if the,
But we did, and at the time, we had no feedback from CEC. We had no idea. CEC has since gotten in touch with us and said, we're only going to give you $83,000. So the numbers have to change. So it's a $67,000 shortfall.
so then we should have another discussion with Water Warriors on what they're going to, how much of this they're going to pick up. Because if we're going to be a beta test site, I don't feel like funding a beta test site.
Well, there's-
I don't think it's necessary. I don't think
Well,
it's
there's two ways to
beneficial.
look at it. And I hear what you're saying, but be a beta, and if we get the savings and electricity and all that good stuff, that's a benefit. And the
If.
concept here is to...
If.
Yeah, all right.
It's the if
it
guy. That's
doesn't
what we're
work,
concerned
then-
about, is the if.
What we asked them
They're
is
giving
to...
us no guarantee on the backside if that if doesn't come to pass.
Then we had said that they would buy back the system, and we'll put that in writing. If it does not work, there'd be some compensation, and so,
To what degree?
I don't know. We can-
100%.
Well, that's,
Well,
you
you
see,
gotta
that's the
plus
point.
the plus use,
We're
whatever
playing
that
with
is.
this nebulous stuff running around, and here we've got a concrete amount of dollars that we want to increase. Now, whether you're talking about in-kind or dollars, it's still dollars out of our pockets or out of the ratepayers' pockets,
I get that.
in
I
one
do.
form or another.
I get that. I do get that.
I mean, I understand that if we get cut back on the grant, that money has got to come to offset that.
Why did we
And as
cut
far
back
as
the
I'm
scope?
concerned, at
Equalizing
that point,
basing is an odor issue, and
Yeah.
we had to fill it to do the project and put the aerators in there and blow the air, and I'm not willing to upset the neighbors.
Are you saying you don't trust their system?
No, I'm saying just the process of getting online, you're going to create a ton of odors. And just one day of odors is enough to rock them for the whole summer.
no, I understand what Guy's coming from, and I don't have, I mean, I don't have
Too far,
issues that, I understand that part of
too
it.
far in odors, we do too much work.
What I don't understand and what I'm not comfortable with and going forward with is that $89,000 increase. If you want to,
$38,000, absolutely, $38,000 increase. $28,000 increase.
How
actual
much?
cost.
Well, no,
$28,000.
but you've also said you've got 67,000 in in kind.
No, $67,000 is decreased from the
Okay.
association.
That's what-
We're paying the $20,000, they're picking up the balance in in-kind services. So that 67 deficit is being split. They're doing the in-kind services, we're doing the 30,000, 28,000. So that balances the 67,000 at the deficit. So you take the proposal, it was 150,000 from the government, they only gave us 83. It's a $67,000 deficit. Where do we come up with that money? We're gonna pay 28,000, they're gonna pick up the balance in in-kind services, which is
Okay.
whatever that is, of the
Okay.
$67,000.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So
So we're gonna,
it's not costing us
essentially, we're
150, it's costing us 178.
Whatever the, so I believe the numbers were 166 we agreed upon.
That's not the number that I saw in the last proposal.
No, it's 166 total,
Do you have
I don't have,
absolutely.
the rewritten contract?
no, the contract, no, the contract's not in there.
There's no contract. Contract is, the state provides a contract, so we're waiting for that.
No, I don't have
The
it. It's not-
rewritten proposal?
And so the meeting minutes state, cost of WPCF would be 166,346. That's our cost.
166?
166,346. That was voted on.
Okay.
So you take that number, you have to, the 160, you have to add the 28 that's new. And
So
the
it'd be
total
190
the total project
194.
cost of 293 didn't change. So that's still what it is. So they're eating the in-kind services, they're providing more services that the CEC was going to provide, but they're not going to provide because of
What's
cutback.
our contribution?
166 plus 28.
166, period.
Plus 28.
194. 194 is what our
Right,
contribution
166
is.
plus 28,000. And we just, the new number, because it's 28,000. 166, what we previously agreed upon, the new number is to add $28,000.
So it's going up $44,000.
Going up $28,000.
28,000.
I don't know how you get 28, if we're at 150 and we're now at 194.
No, we're at 166.
Never were at 150, we're always at 166. 150 was the original contribution by the government.
Yeah, that was
They've
it.
changed that 150 contribution to 83,000. No longer 150, throw that number away, it no longer exists. So it's 83, which is a $67,000 decrease in funds from the CEC.
All right.
So 28,000 is
All right.
ours, added to the
Our
166.
contribution wasn't 150?
166.
That's what we originally agreed on?
Right, that's what we were gonna,
Yes, 166,
pay.
346.
150 was what the grant was gonna be.
Yeah, that's what you keep saying.
Yeah.
But I thought that was what our contribution was as well.
Was it 166? So our contribution now is 194.
Correct. Correct. To add the 28.
Do you have the funds?
We're going to town meeting anyways for the funds. We're going to go to town meeting in October.
So it'll come
for the
out of
funds.
capital?
Yes. So we'd have to increase it by 28,000.
If it's approved, do you have the funds?
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We have the funds.
When is when are articles due? Second week in September? Will you be ready?
For the article, yes.
Will capital planning be ready
I don't
for the
know.
second week in September?
I can't speak to that.
Yeah, because we're gonna have a meeting after I get back from Maine. Just to- What have we got to put in? We'll play that later. Okay, so what are the grant has been decreased. Now, what's this 89K that you were, grant that you were throwing out there, Guy? What was that 89,000?
I'm not sure. I think I talked about a $67,000 decrease in the grant funds. It's the same grant.
Send me
CEC.
I saw an 83 number, 83,000
Yeah, you s-
number.
You sent me something on an $89,000 grant, and you're gonna put together the, when I don't think I have all that.
I'm not sure. I think the originals, when we talked originally, we calculated, I thought it was a little over 67, could have been 89. The action note from the CEC is 67. So because we play with numbers without having any actual confirmation from CEC. If there's another grant I'm not aware of, and if I send it to you, then I apologize, I don't know if that's a separate grant.
Maybe it wasn't a
Sure.
grant, I don't know what we're doing.
I thought it was all related to CEC, because we've been going back and forth with the CEC. That's what we want to do. In the interim, they also changed management, so that was an issue. We went back and forth, so it's been a little,
See, I think so, that's-
a lot of
So the grant is now
correspondence.
89?
No. That's what I gotta find out what, he sent me something.
What is the grant money now?
I sent you a copy of this actual
Yes,
copy
you
of the
did.
grant.
I thought I saw 83 on the first
At
page.
83 or,
I thought I remember seeing 83 as the
I
grant.
didn't have, I don't
So
have.
this is the original, this is the, I'm sure I'm not lying to you, 83,000 is what the grant is now. See, if you look at the numbers, you'll
Okay.
see, they, at one time, here's the two grants. So one says 150,000 was their contribution. The new grant we got from the state says, no, we're actually going to give you 83,000.
That's what I
That's the
saw.
same thing. It's the same grant, just a reduction of their contribution. So it's $83,000. This is the bottom of what the grant provides, 83,000, that was circled.
Okay.
What it was in the past, that said 150. Because
Right, that
their
was the grant,
contribution.
right.
Now it's 83, the grant's actually 83. Oh, so I see what you're saying. So it was, yes, the grant is 83 instead of 150.
So Water Warriors is picking up 39, we're picking up 28.
Right.
Well, that-
Okay, so our new number then is 194.
Correct.
All right,
And we have to get that from town meeting?
Correct.
Is it on the capital plan?
no,
I didn't think, it's not on the capital plan, is it?
I don't remember it being specific to the capital plan. It was part of the sludge. We have a lot of sludge things out there, but this is under that, but I don't remember the specifics. Because we also want to talk about in capital plan, I think I had sent over the analysis between the sludge dewatering of the screw press and what we're presently doing in replacing that piece of equipment. The Beta did that analysis. I sent it out to the board probably a month ago. I think you asked for it, and I sent it out. So I'm going to bring that next capital plan meeting. That's going to go in front of the town meeting also to present that project.
find out the data for that one right now.
The,
I'm
Mr. Chairman, just so you're aware, it's getting worse. The sludge is getting worse. There's Cranston keeps going offline, so the only game in town is Woonsocket. And they've been limiting us because of the overflow from Cranston, so the market is getting crazy. The liquid sludge market is just getting, the entire state's in trouble, and we
I
don't
saw our
know.
last bill with them.
It's crazy. It just, and we're all struggling. Everybody doing liquid, we don't know what we're going to do if when soccer goes down, we're in serious trouble. And we have a contract with soccer, so they honor it. So we were asking for 2 loads a day. They guaranteed us 1. And other folks that didn't have contract with them, just haulers, they shut off completely. So it's a mess out there. It's a mess out there. So
Aren't
that's
you
why.
looking into the possibility of finding some way to turn that sludge into some hard product?
We are. Nothing, I have
An
nothing.
option,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're looking at all the options.
So we're looking at, okay.
We have to.
I think we're looking at about 4 different things right at the
We're all over the
moment.
place. We're looking at
How to
everything that's a
handle it.
potential, because there's a major need and there's a major problem, and we have to come up with long-term solutions, and it's just crazy. It's crazy right now. It's like China refusing recyclables. That market's gone crazy. Everybody's struggling. Where do you take your recyclables?
Landfill.
Okay, do we have a EDU schedule update?
Tomorrow we'll get the final. So everything's been done. We talked about benefit use, we talked about cost causation. He's taken all those numbers, planted in the capital improvement plan, the cost annually, increases annually. That'll all be done tomorrow. So
Are they coming down, or is he just sending his stuff?
I was going up to get it, but I'm on vacation next week. I told him I'd just drive up my vacation, sit and chit-chat. What else do you do on vacation?
So you'll have it tomorrow? When will you share?
Tomorrow will be completed, so I'll call him. So I don't know, he said tomorrow will be
How
completed.
big is the report?
I'm not sure. I think it's 30, 40 pages. I'm not so sure.
Okay.
29 of them you don't need. 29 of them you probably don't need.
Probably don't, because they explained that, see, the key thing is the methodology has to be explained, because keep in mind, the methodology is a legal document, because our permit and the law speaks to charge and user fees, and the methodology has to withstand legal scrutiny.
Right.
So they have to make sure they explain the methodology so it's irrefutable. And so that takes 29 pages probably.
So you'll have it for our next meeting?
August 2nd.
Yes.
I'm on vacation August 2nd, but I'm going to come back to come to the meeting. I'm on vacation I'll be on vacation starting Saturday morning. I'll be on vacation for 3 weeks.
So when will
I'll
we,
continue to do everything.
no,
that
when
I
will
need
we
to do.
see it in a meeting?
August 2nd. I think that's the next meeting is August 2nd, I believe.
Yeah, but who's going to present it?
I will. I'll
You're
bring
on
Mike and myself, we'll present it. I'll make sure it happens. We'll get it done.
Okay, sub pumps.
I think it's time to sit down and write a policy. I don't know if, I think it would be proper to do a workshop maybe,
Yeah.
and just thrash out the real, now, the board will have to decide if you want to do it publicly and advertise it, or just do two. I don't know how the board, what your pleasure is, but we should have a workshop and just debate.
I thought we were going to have some options to sump pumps presented to us.
We've
Or did
got-
I miss that?
No, there's no, if you want me to bring them in, I'll bring them in, but they just sent the flyer saying this is what we provide for all sump pumps. We're going to provide the flyer.
And it's just discharged to the outside? Into
It's
the,
actually a drain system. It's not just throw it on the lawn.
but it's outside of the house?
the
It's
building.
not down
Not
the
into
sewer
us.
line?
That's right, absolutely. It's a viable, but the homeowner can just throw it in the backyard, there's no issues. But someone had said that they wanted an alternative, and so we're going to present them with a real bona
A
fide.
dry well?
Yep, a real bona fide alternative that they can go out and do. And they can do it themselves anyways. It's, but we.
How did your meeting go in Hamilton?
Good.
It was, I
Excellent.
liked it. I think they were
They
very.
like it.
I think there was very
So did you have
informative and-
anybody disconnect their sump pump?
I don't know. Come on, let's get real.
We didn't go around and take attendance on that.
Okay.
Let's get real. But again, that's where smoking and dying comes in, because when you get to the INR report, you have
Yeah,
just a
I've
summary,
read
I think it's
that.
19 pages. That's how you get rid of the sump pumps, you smoke them out. And then you identify it, and then you go and say, okay, now here's the ordinance, and you gotta get rid of them. There's legal ways to do it, we just have to do it. So we'll talk about those. But we are gonna, and if you look at the INR report that we submitted to DEP, you will see alternatives, but these all have a price. Smoking is expensive, and all things we're gonna do, none of
Well,
it's cheap.
smoking is
so-
the cheapest
Cheapest of
by a
all.
long way, by a long shot.
Yep. And it identifies quite a bit,
Oh, yeah.
identifies quite a bit.
I mean, it probably wouldn't get everything for us, but it would get a good percentage of it, a high percentage.
It'd get a good bit, and it'd be a good base, good start.
Yeah.
Jason, I think, then continue with the education. I mean, people are becoming aware. It's just, that's hard. It's like anything else,
Well,
habits.
It's a new thing.
It's hard
Yeah,
to
it's a new
change.
system, it's a new thing, it's a total different understanding.
McDonald's went from great lard to the great french fries to this new low-calorie stuff. I can't make the change. Not for me.
It's not what
Not
you're used
gonna
to.
happen.
So change is difficult for all of us. Anytime somebody makes a change, it takes a while of adjustment, and we have a hard time dealing with change. It's just the way it is. So we'll have to just slowly implement it and educate and continue on. But I think a workshop is in order. I don't know if you want to do it publicly or do it with just, that's the board's decision. Publicly may be an opportunity to educate, discuss, get ideas, let them talk, let them vent. It may, I don't know if the board would like to do that, but I think it's a board decision, but we definitely need to bring it public, and I think a public meeting is.
Well, that would probably make sense, I mean, at least it would give us a kickoff to it.
Yeah, but how do you
Do a
get, how do you
public-
get the message out there, there is going to be a workshop?
You go
That's
to
the
each
problem, is
we
how do
go-
you reach people?
So you go to every,
We'll get
I
Brian.
find these community things, people participate, because they have agendas. I'm trying right now to get an agenda of the Rose Point Association. They've got a meeting coming up. I'm on vacation, but I'll come for it. I think it's August 12th, and I'll be back from New Hampshire on August 12th. I'll go to it. And Parkwood has theirs, I think it's probably late August. I mean, you just got to get on the association meetings and present it. I think you go to the people. There's no other way. We can advertise, we can put it on the TV, all the things that we can normally do,
Yeah.
but
But how do you make it worth their while to change?
You can't.
You can't.
can't. I mean, you can't.
You
It's
can't
just
offer, you
education.
can't offer them a piece of candy to
You
to
can't offer
switch.
people health when you tell them to quit smoking.
It's not our problem.
That's right. The government's been trying for years. We spent billions of dollars to get people to stop smoking. That's a choice. We have to educate the people, let them know that they're charging, they're costing this infrastructure, costing themselves a lot of money. So it's a slow process, but my gosh, if we don't do it, then we'll never get anywhere. And so, yeah, change, I get what you're saying.
Well, I think what basically comes down to, Sandy, on that score is we need to take and at least put out the option for them to show up. If they don't show up, they don't show up. If they don't participate, they don't participate. But if we at least make the effort, then when we put in a policy and
We say we've tried.
then we've at least got some backup on the fact that we've at least attempted to do it and explain to you why we've had
So
to.
somewhere down the line, there could be a surcharge if you still have a sump pump?
Yep.
But then you have to prove that they have a sump pump, so you give them a surcharge until they can prove that it's been disconnected.
Absolutely.
So to me, I think the only way to do anything is to hit them in the pocketbook.
Yeah.
They're not going to do it on their own.
That's the only way it's gonna happen, but I think
You're right.
what Guy is saying, and on the one hand, doing a public hearing, if you will, on sump pumps to explain the reasons why we can't have them and shouldn't have them, and what the downside is if you do have them.
Will there be any possibility of some type of grant or funding available to a homeowner to discharge outside of a sewer line?
I don't know. We can
I
look-
mean, do we have type of funds that would allow that type of
What would it cost to
dollar amount?
put a pamphlet in the bill?
I'm not
You know,
aware, but we can research that
no,
for
but it's
sure.
something that could we,
Expense or something.
We could
Sorry.
personally, the enterprise could finance it. Enterprise could say, we do this and whatever, but that,
we will give you an X amount of money if you were to discharge your sump pump other than the sewer line.
No way.
But prove it. I'm thinking of the only way to, why? You have to give them
It's
some,
not our problem, it's their problem.
it's our problem because we're paying for it and that's why their EDU's
Fine, and
high.
everybody gets a $100 surcharge, and if you prove you don't have a sump pump,
You don't have a
then you
surcharge.
don't have the surcharge.
That's an option.
Right. What would it cost to put a pamphlet
That
in the
would get their
bill?
attention real quick.
we do it anyways. We put a flyer anyway, so it wouldn't be much more. We can
But
just add to that flyer.
with the
Specific-
options.
We can do that. It wouldn't be much more.
Could we
Roughly,
focus
what
on,
would it cost?
$800.
could we focus
do you
particular
think?
areas?
I think that we should do a specific flyer, specific, and educate them on, it wouldn't hurt, it would not hurt. It's a good idea.
And the bottom line of the flyer says the surcharge will be in your next bill.
You wouldn't be able to handle the phone calls. You could focus on those areas we know some pumps exist
Absolutely.
as opposed to everywhere?
We would go to the known areas, and we know, if you look at the INI, we can see the inflow. It's there. So we'd go to those areas first, because we know it's happening. And so there's, I forget how many, I think it's 8 or 9,
We know
5,
the houses.
we go right there.
Okay,
I kind of know
don't-
some of them.
Seriously.
No, I kind of know some of them.
When they
Low-
reline the pipes out down in Swifts Beach, we know exactly which houses have sump
dump the
pumps.
water in?
They blew up the pipe. So, and remember, that whole area is pretty consistent. Anytime you see something below grade in those areas, there's a sump pump.
And it cost us $18,000. We
have
ate
some
it
Butts about it.
when he was lining the pipes, because the epoxy wouldn't cure, because the sump pumps were coming on. It ended up costing us 18 grand.
It's crazy. So we know we have them.
And we didn't, okay,
We didn't pass on, no, we did not pass it on. There's no provision to,
not yet.
not yet.
I mean, if
There's no
we find
provision
a
to.
way that their particular homeowner is costing the pollution control facility funds because of their misuse, I'd like to
Okay, then,
tackle that,
Then
but
I
then
think-
we have to find a way of changing our bylaws.
See, a lot of them are gonna look at it The
We don't have bylaws in this-
surcharge?
that's
and
not a
leave the pump
bylaw.
hooked up.
May be worth it.
It's not a
Maybe
bylaw
worth it.
situation.
If you have
However-
a finished basement and you're gonna lose it because this sump pump comes offline, it's worth $100.
So $100, and whether we do it per cycle, per month, whatever, that would be the decision. Because it would have to accumulate to where they're saying, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Because if it's a one-time $100 surcharge, let me give you a check.
Oh, no,
now.
it's gonna be in every bill.
So it's twice, it's $200 per year. Yeah, let me just cut your check now, we'll be
But
good.
we have to find some way to determine the total cost of handling this fresh water, and then,
Then proportionate,
yes.
then it's gonna be
But we have
proportionate.
to be able to prove the cost.
That's right.
And then
No,
share it.
just a second.
Because would you do
Just a
that?
second. Now,
would you
now-
do?
now you're charging me for her sump pump.
No, what I'm saying.
No.
No, you're saying, here, this is enough, for $200, you write a check.
Right,
And keep the sump pump
Keep the
going.
sump pump going.
right.
So we're not, so the cost to us is gonna be greater than $200. But what do you care? You're paying your $200, you're good. We haven't gained a whole lot. We still have problem with pipe capacity, we still have problem with sewer capacity, the problems don't go away. You're just giving us $200,
No.
that's gonna go nowhere as to
When I'm-
mitigating the problem.
What I'm thinking of is, we know who the offenders are, we know the total cost of handling that fresh water, charge them
Portion it out.
a portion of the cost, not everybody, because I don't,
It's illegal for the sump pump to be hooked to our
No, you're
system.
that's
Absolutely
right,
right.
and therefore you charge them.
How can now you're legalizing an illegal pump.
You're making it it's a fine. It's not a user fee.
It's a
It is
fine.
a punishment, it's a fine. That's ongoing until you get rid of it. Has to be a fine. It has to be,
But once again, it may be cheaper to pay the fine.
or, yeah, it may be. We just have to figure out what that number is.
Well, then, basically what we're saying is, okay, you can have your sump pump, it's just gonna cost you to
$100 a month.
We're not going to say that, but we're going to say, I know where you're going with this, and I understand it totally. But if we do nothing, right now, we're saying it's okay. What we're doing right now is we're telling the homeowners, continue your sump pump, it's okay. I know it's causing us harm, whatever, but it's okay, because we're doing
How
nothing
much
about it.
trouble are we gonna get in with the EPA if we start doing this and allow it to continue?
Eventually, if we have an SSO that's directly attributed to an inflow, we're going to be fined,
Right.
and we're going to be
So
penalized.
if we collect $200 and allow them to leave the pump on
Make it
and
hurt.
call it a fine,
We're saying you get rid of the pump, we'll charge you this fee until you get rid of it, and then in the interim, we have to, maybe there's a better way to get rid of it, I don't know, but the bottom line is, if the EPA knows that we're doing everything possible to get rid of it, then we're not negligent.
but we're
If we do
not doing
nothing, we're
everything.
negligent.
We have
If we do
to.
nothing, we're negligent.
But we're not doing everything.
So it's,
Yeah, we're trying to
Basically-
find them, we're trying to educate them, we're going to smoke test, we're going to identify them, we're doing everything we can, short of violating their right. When we have a right in our bylaw to go in their house, it doesn't say I can rip it out of the wall, it says I can identify it. And we just keep bringing it to the EPA, because here's where we are, you tell
okay,
us.
on that basis, it's in the bylaws, we can go into the house. In order to establish the fine for discovering an illegal sump pump, would that be the policy that affects the fine? Or
I think-
imposes the fine?
I think if we,
It's not a bylaw situation.
if
because
we
you'd
get
have
in
to
their
be
house and
Fooling
there's,
around with that every 10 minutes.
if we get permission to go in the house and we see the sump pump, then they're issued an order to remove it, and we'd have to come back and make sure it was removed, and come back every so often, wherever that's going to be. That's how, that's the ultimate get rid of it. We go
But, okay,
knock on your
but
door.
that doesn't answer the problem.
What's the problem?
That just identifies the problem, and now if they don't remove it, what do? You go back and tell them again to remove it? You don't have a fine established there.
You'd have to establish a fine. There's got to be a
Where-
consequence.
I understand that. Now, what my question is, where do you establish the fine? Is that through a policy
Well, yeah,
or
I don't,
or a bylaw? I can't see it being a bylaw.
It is a bylaw
It is-
now.
it's already a bylaw. We already have a fine bylaw. Bylaw says that if you violate the bylaw, it's $300 a day. We have it already in place. It's in our bylaw.
So then we're not doing it.
We're not doing it.
So we need to.
We need to set up a policy to enforce it.
So basically,
Because
the
our bylaw
bottom,
tells us we can already do it. It's in
so
the bylaw.
the bottom line is, we have a policy, or we have a bylaw that needs enforcement.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so maybe the time to have the
And
discussion with Mr. Bowen.
who does the enforcing?
I'm not so sure. I'm really not. I think the bylaw
Okay,
gives us the right to
Where do we get that
enforce.
answer?
And remember, our attorney, because remember when that
Okay,
was
then
written.
we need to contact him. That should be our next step.
Yeah, because when it was written with the selectmen/sewer commissioners. Once it was divvied, does that mean that bylaw now goes to the sewer commissioners or stay with the selectmen? That's never been clarified. It needs to be clarified in enforcement. I believe Derek is now the enforcement officer for the town. Didn't they put that at a town meeting or something? Derek is the enforcement officer of the town of Wareham. So if there's enforced, we sent to him a letter saying, "Dear Derek, enforce this."
I thought
I
the
think he's
building
enforcement
department
officer.
had enforcement
Well, if
officer.
that's, I mean,
Derek is.
that sounds like, we were running around Robin Hood's barn to solve a problem, which is stupid.
So
I
we
mean,
have to figure it out.
the idiocy prevails.
Well, he is and I don't know how to go
Regardless
about it.
of what it is, what I'm saying is that, if the sewer department has a bylaw, or the town has a bylaw
Sewer
that
does.
affects the sewer, and there's a fine associated with it, if a certified member of the sewer department finds that you come into my house and there's a problem with there is a sump pump, that I'm to be fined. Now, do we just add that to the bill?
I don't know.
I mean, that's the problem. That's what I'm trying to find out. I mean, we've got these things and we
Well,
mouth
is
we mouth
authority.
around about them every damn time.
It's
And we come
authority.
up with nothing and we do nothing.
When
Now,
you
let's-
did the bylaw for the
let's-
sewer commissioners, all those things weren't answered. And so does it
Well,
revert back to
then
the
in other
selectmen?
words-
We need to
Then in
clarify
other
it.
words, the bylaw is worthless.
No, in other words, we need to sit down with the attorney and clarify. I don't have clarity.
Okay, then let's get some clarification for the next meeting.
Sit down with, so you want Ms. Bowen here, or how do you want me to get clarification? It'd probably be easy for you to sit and talk to Mr. Bowen. You have the right.
We want to be the enforcers because we want to collect the fine.
I understand it,
If
but
if
we've got to
leave-
find out
if we
what
leave-
Bowen has to say.
The fine has to come to us, because that's under our...
We know which homes are currently offending, we know the addresses.
But
So we
if
don't
it's
have-
a town bylaw and the town enforces it, they'll get the fine.
That's why I said we need to talk to Bowen and how we do this.
No, the bylaw is specific to the sewer. I'm going to say that it should come specific to the sewer, because it's an enterprise.
I agree with that. I
But
mean,
then
we agree with
let's
that.
Let's let
But
Bowen...
if the
we want-
town enforces it,
But we
they'll
want-
get the money.
I need clarification.
We have to
from-
enforce it.
It could be a percentage.
Okay, we're not going to get any further with that now, so.
But I have a question. If we
Yes.
know the homes that have sump pumps hooked up,
We know some.
we know some. Even if I know 2 out of 10, we
Mm-hmm.
know some. Why can't we, without going into their home, hit them with a fee, with a penalty?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I agree with you on that, Sandy.
I don't have to go in a home to say I have a picture.
You put it on their bill. What I would do is the ones that you know, and you've got some you know from the cammering that was done, and any others, I would send them a notice that the fine will be in effect on your next bill for the number of days that you have it going, unless you show us reason that you no longer have it hooked up.
So if I know of a sump pump here, should I assume that the neighbor has one, if they have a basement? So I
I'm not
guess...
gonna-
No,
no
you have
assumptions.
proof.
Okay.
You have
No
camera
assumptions.
proof.
You know, what you know, you know.
Okay.
I don't know, outside of that, I can assume all over the
I
map.
just wonder
But,
about blanket policy, blanket everybody, and
Yeah.
make them prove otherwise.
I mean, you nail this guy,
You know who's doing it, right?
but
You
the
know the
neighbors are gonna
homes.
hear.
We know homes that have them specific,
Then you
yes.
hit them, and if their neighbor says, oh, they didn't catch me, well, guess someone's going to drop a dime. Who knows?
Okay, but how much are you gonna hit them for? And how
That's-
hard are you gonna hit them?
That is why we need to find out the cost of handling all this
what's
Well, I
extra.
can't get one person to pay the cost.
What's the policy, do you know what the bylaw says now?
Say it cost us 100,000.
What's the penalty?
Hit them with 500
The
bucks.
bylaw states that any violation of these bylaws is $300 a day.
$300 a
I-
day.
Any bylaw in the
Finished
town
basement.
of Wareham,
I'd pay
you
the
violate it,
500
it's a
bucks.
fine of $300 a
Okay,
day.
so
It's that's what you pay.
You've gotta keep
And
making
the
it
bylaw says you cannot have
better
some...
and bigger and
You send
bigger
the
and
pe-
bigger.
You send those people that you know specifically a notice to that effect, with the date that that will go into effect on them. That's the only way I can see to start it off. I mean, you gotta get something going, and,
Do any-
the rest of it is BS.
Do any of the communities in our area have a dollar amount being fined for having a hooked-up sump pump? Do we have anybody that has an example of what it cost, a penalty for having a,
Situate did a amnesty program. They put out all these
Oh, no.
flyers that they're gonna charge you so much, I'll get that number, and then they offered amnesty, and people just got
well,
rid of their sump pumps. So
I'm
I'll
just
get that
thinking,
number.
Well,
if,
that's, I mean, that's what I would do with this,
I don't want to
but we
just
need
pull a
start.
dollar amount out of the
Right across
hat.
the board, and the people just said, oh, okay. So they granted amnesty immediately. So let's say it was $500. Then you were granted amnesty if you got rid of your sump
Well,
pump and had
would-
proof of it. So I
I
think
have
we,
no
I think
problem
just
with
pick a
that.
number and go at it, and,
Yeah,
'cause
that's
the
fine.
goal isn't to fine people, the goal is to get rid of the
Exactly.
sump pumps.
Exactly.
If they choose to eat the fine, so be it, no matter what, if it's $1,000,
Oh.
whatever it is, the goal is to say, oh, no, let me just get rid of it. If they say, you don't want to pay it,
And we can say, okay,
but it's gotta be, to
It will-
Peter's point, it's gotta be like, whoa.
yeah, you have to hit them
What will
and
the EPA fine us if we let it continue?
and
That's
overflow.
thousands per day.
But
How
you
much?
see the-
Thousands per day.
There you go, there's your figure.
Thousands per day if we ignore it.
see, but
It's
the
in
way-
our permit.
But at the present time, we're not ignoring it, we're just not enforcing it.
That's right. That's why I'm saying, we're doing something, we're not
So we're
negligent.
doing something, so I mean,
Not negligent.
we've essentially, for all intents and purposes, the EPA is over here. I mean, in other words, we've got them basically handled from the standpoint that we are trying to do something.
It's important.
We don't have it to the stage we would like it to be because
All
how
of
it
that's fine, well,
necessary,
and
how
good.
it, how it
The thing is
negative,
the
how
number,
it
the amount.
negatively, how it negatively affects us at the moment. That gets into the finding, which we need to establish and start. We've already got a number in there, as you say in the bylaws. So- I mean,
Beginning.
let's use it.
Again, we're not
Start.
negligent. We just don't, we're not negligent. We are addressing it. We just gotta, but if we don't do anything, then we're negligent.
Okay.
Just can't be negligent, and I think that's what the board's doing. We just wanna be negligent.
Okay.
II status update, you have it.
I have it.
You have it all. It's there. It's, I think it's in your packet.
Yes.
It's pretty extensive for a summary. There's a book.
Yeah.
If you want to read the book, come down to the plant, read the book. But this is a summary of the book. It speaks, it's very clear. I looked at all the different sections. Then I looked at the cost.
When you get a chance.
So you guys can review it, and if you have any questions, I'll answer specific. If you think I should have Beta here, we can do that. And in the interim, you come down and read the manual. We got a book here. Whatever you guys feel like doing, you let me know, we'll do. But it addresses it. We've got issues, and we need to address them. And we'll have to figure out. And these addresses, they're in our capital improvement plan. In our CIP calls for $1 million a year to line pumps. $1 million a year, that's in our plan. One is $3 million, and that's for the pump station. So we estimated $5 million a year. Well, obviously, that's not gonna happen, but we need to figure out what the real number is and put that in our rates and start doing this work consistently. And borrow. And that's that, and I think that was it, I&A.
Okay,
Before we adjourn, may I ask a question?
certainly.
At the beginning of the meeting, you said we would take no actions on our June 7th and June 21st minutes.
Affirmative.
Why? We have a quorum.
Not of who attended the,
I wasn't here for one of them,
And I wasn't here
so
for
I
one.
can't vote.
No,
So
then it becomes, we have a quorum, you just abstain, but the vote can be taken.
well, we can do that. I was looking at the fact that we didn't have,
Well, the minutes that Peter and you signed, they're all approved without them being here. Now you're endorsing them, now is that how it works?
They really shouldn't be signed until they're approved.
What you're always signing is that we prepared it, not that we approved it, right?
all right, where the heck did I just put
No,
them?
because once you sign it, it goes off to the town clerk, and we haven't approved them. I never sign minutes until they're approved by the committees.
Oh, here we go, here they are.
And I think a quorum, you can approve them, your quorum.
We have a quorum.
That's right, and you can approve the minutes.
So
or no.
that in this case, for the June 7th,
All right.
Jimmy and Peter sign and I abstain. For the June 21st, Peter abstains and I and Jimmy approve.
You can do, that. I mean, you got a quorum. You can, as a quorum, you can act.
Okay,
You can act on anything as a quorum.
all right. Then we'll go back to that then. The meeting of the 7th of June. Peter, you and I were present at that.
Okay, so I make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, and I'll second it. And the vote is
201?
201. And
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of June 21st.
okay, and I'll second. We got a 201.
I abstain.
Okay, they're done.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All righty. Any new
Thank you.
business in addition to? If not, seems Donna's not here.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, approved, passed. The next meeting is the 2nd of August.